I'm seeing articles like this saying that these dock workers are starting to walk off the job. And now you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so bad. I need to go out and buy my food because there's going to be food shortages. So hold on. I'm going to debunk some stuff and we're going to talk about all these things. And when you're looking at it, people have been saying, oh, all kinds of stuff in the comments that they're trying to protect their industry. And one of the huge things that they're trying to prevent is automation. So I have a small video right here showing that these are like automated driving, and they're saying that ports in LA are already doing that, or Long Beach are already all automated, and they're trying to prevent all that. And they're saying that we've made it through COVID and we helped you guys out, and now it's your time to help us out. And one thing you have to say is you can't stop innovation and automation. It's just who the United States is. They always outsource, they always automate and get rid of you. That's just who it is. And even if you have a union, we'll see how that's going to go. But now let's talk about what we import through these ports. So the US imports crude oil, petroleum. So crude oil, petroleum. We import cars, broadcasting equipment, computers, and packaged medication. So now you're like, oh my gosh, we're getting all of these crude oil imports, and it's going to be a whole disaster. Gas prices are going to go up and it's going to cost us a lot. So let's debunk some of that. So first of all, we have a petroleum reserve. The United States has a reserve where they store crude petroleum in worst case scenarios. So if we stopped and closed all these ports and closed all the refineries and we wouldn't get any crude oil from Mexico or Canada, we could last 4.9 times our annual consumption. So about 5 years without drilling or producing anything. And we're still one of the top 10 producers of crude oil. So I think we're like a top 4 in the United States, and we export. But now we're like, maybe we don't. And it's really hard to find these articles where they actually export, because when you're looking at them, they're exported in LA, they do it in Washington and some other areas. And here we go. West Coast longshoremen are represented by a separate union, and ports of California, Oregon, and Washington State remain open. Oil and gas terminals are operated by separate workers' crew that are not heavily unionized and will not be affected. So gas is most likely not affected. Okay, so we talked about the petroleum. And here we go. Petroleum production in the United States, we're like number 1. So there we go. So we produce the most. So gas prices most likely won't go up, but they might do, because fear and all this other stuff is great news to hype it up. So when you can portray fear in people, then you can actually get people to pay a bigger price, because it's fear mongering. So now let's look at cars. And with cars, you're probably right. When you're looking at cars from Europe and cars from Asia that come into that port, some of them come through the port of Long Beach, and some of them from European car makers, BMWs, come through that port. So, oh my gosh, you're not going to get your European cars. Okay, if you're rich enough, you fly them in anyways, right? So now, broadcast equipment. So are you telling me that equipment like this that comes from broadcasting, that comes through these ports, is that important? Nah, I can pay a little bit higher price or wait anyways, right? So now let's look what else is coming in. Computers. Yeah, computers pretty bad. And that's why I say all the time, we should start producing our computers and start producing stuff in the United States. And now we're looking at packaged medication. Yes, packaged medication is going to be really bad for people that relying on pharmaceuticals, but then they probably will reroute you or put it on an airplane, and it will cost a little bit more, and make sure that the medication and all this other stuff will still get to you. And now you're looking at food, because I've seen a lot of people say food prices are going to be affected and food is going to be the worst thing to come by. So again, the United States is the world's largest food exporter, In 2022, the US exported $191.7 billion worth of agricultural food items. So, profiles to top US agriculture ports. The Port of Savannah is the fourth largest container port in the United States, handling more than 2.9 million to 20-foot equivalent units of containers during blah, 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 blah. So what is going to happen, what I see happening is not that we are that much affected, it's that it's going to affect all these other countries way, way worse than us. So when we are one of the biggest food exporters in the world, that means that if these port strikers are going to go on strike, they're also not going to ship out food. And we saw that during COVID, that all these places in South Africa and Asia are reliant on soybeans from the United States, and they're going to start having issues, and then they're going to have hunger problems because we as the United States stops exporting. And so that is a way, way bigger deal than what we're talking about. So now, when we're looking at all these exports with the food and agriculture stuff, that is more for exports to other countries. So before I left home, I looked at some canned food items in my pantry because they have a label on it that says product of America, product of Italy. And I shop at Trader Joe's fairly often. Allie loves it. And so I looked at where some of these foods come from, and a lot of them come from actually the United States. And some of them came from Italy that we had. Pasta sauces came from Italy, and some other pasta brands were made in the United States. So will you get your favorite pasta sauce? Might be delayed or might cost a little bit more. But most of my stuff in my pantry was from the United States. So now I'm asking you, where's your food coming from? Because most of the stuff that I've seen in the stores is from either Mexico or the United States. And I doubt it very heartily that Mexico would put stuff on ships and then ship it to the ports. Most likely they'll truck it, and that's why you see all these lines of trucks at the southern port in Mexico, where they bring it all in. That's why Long Beach has all these crazy. Let me fact check that right here, right now. Does Mexico import most stuff via boat or via truck into the United States? Okay, here we go. In 2022, trucks carried 71% of all freight from Mexico to the United States. Then the rail, 12%, and then the rest was via vessel. So that just says that with Mexico as a partner in the food agriculture stuff, and Mexico produces so many items for us, we should technically be okay weathering this out. And I know people are, you guys are going to say like, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many other things that you have not counted for. Yes, and some industries will suffer. Some industries that are doing specialized manufacturing, that need products, that need specialized equipment, that need specialized items, yes, that's going to be affected. And truck drivers will be affected, yes, because when you are going to these ports and you always picked up these loads, distributed to warehouses and doing all that, and you can't do that no more, that's going to cause issues. It's going to cause issues in the warehouses, that's going to cause issues all around. But it's not going to be that you at the grocery store are going to see 100-200% price increases. Might a little bit, but that's just any strike in any industry that kind of results into. And now you're looking at it like, oh man, this isn't good at all. And if you were a smart business leader and had some kind of sense of, hey, the ports might be closing, then if you were smart, you were putting some stuff in warehouses and you kind of knew this was coming, and you kind of got a little surplus so you would last a little while. And the last time that this happened, it was like 12 days. So if you were a smart leader and you had a good executive team, your team should have said, hey, we are relying on this one part and they're going to close the ports down. That's why you have supply chain managers. And supply chain managers' jobs are to look at the supply chain and say, hey, if we cannot get this one item, where else can we source it from? And how do we make sure that this isn't gonna kill our operations? And if you only have one supplier, then you have a problem in your organization, because yeah, it might be the cheapest one and the price must have been decent or the quality must have been decent, but now you're like, oh my gosh, and now you're going to cost yourself a whole lot of money. So you need to have some forefront and have some knowledge when you operate companies that stuff like this is out of your control, and you just need to make sure that your company isn't that impacted so you can still deliver a good product to your customers. And for all these people that were so into fear mongering, so into, oh my gosh, these ports are gonna, it's gonna cause all this stuff, is once these people walk off the job and say, okay, there it is, these shipping vessels, these huge container ships will get rerouted. And when you see at the port of Long Beach, it's all automated. And I have a video right here. It's all automated. So they can just reroute them. Yeah, it's going to cost more. And if you want to then ship products down to Florida or to the East Coast, it's just going to cost them more money. And because these truck drivers got to go from the West Coast to the East Coast, and they're going to do all that kind of stuff with trucking and doing all that. But that's just another little game that they're playing. And when you hear the president of the union, he's like, we need to make sure that our people have a job. And I agree, they should do that. And people ask me, why are you so against why are you for innovation? And when people like that lose their job or try to go on strike, you're not like it. Because I feel like that if we stop innovating, that we're going to lose our advantage. We're going to lose our edge with technology, with all these other things that I can't even account for in one video. So, for example, if we stop innovating and have these autonomous driving, these autonomous little, I don't even know what you call it, like not cars, but autonomous, I can't even say the word, it's like a tongue breaker. Have like these to have these like AI drive-in carriers, you then stop innovating. And I feel like when you can have a port open for 24/7 and they offload and unload by themselves, what other innovations will come from that? And you take that knowledge and you kind of learn from it and you keep innovating. And the idea is to keep innovating so we can live longer, we can have better life expectancies, we can have better working conditions. And yeah, it comes at a cost of some of these workers that were driving cranes, operators, and doing all that other stuff. And I bet you some of these incidences with these autonomous vehicles is going to be way less than when they were at the job. So that's why I'm like, hey, innovation cannot stop, because once we're starting to innovate even more, we're going to be a lot better off once we start innovating and doing all that, because innovation drives ingenuity, and ingenuity is so great when you have a country that is heavily reliant on it, because we need to, the vision of the United States was always that we come up with the idea, we make it, and then we outsource it and let other people have it and use it, like the internet, like Facebook, social media apps, and all these other things. And if somebody else comes close to it, then we either acquire them, we buy them, or we make laws so they're gonna be outlawed, right? So TikTok and all these other social media companies that were like, or Huawei, are saying, nope, you're too good for us, we need to catch up or do something, so we'll ban you to the US market. And I kind of get that why they do it, but it's just so important for everybody involved that we keep innovating. And when you say stop innovation because we need to preserve jobs, then we should have done that a long time ago with emails, because you don't want to put the post office out of a job and all these other places. And like when you're starting to have these AI features, Secretary should have went on strike, because you can now just talk into your phone and say, hey, write me up an email. And so secretaries were out of a job. And so there's so many places and so many different jobs that got eliminated through innovation. And personally, I think it's just the name of the game. Innovation. You innovate and automate, or you just go out of business. And for somebody that's in their early 30s, it's just crazy to see how we are so heavily reliant on automation. You see it with farming, you see it with these artificial intelligent robots that cut grass. We see it everywhere. And it's like, okay, we're starting to automate all these different types of areas just so we can save money and create other jobs in other fields, and then sell it to consumers where it's easier for them to do it, where it's easier for them to have access to it. And yeah, I think that's pretty decent. Let me know what you think about all of this. I know it's a lot of information, and there's probably some stuff that comes through these ports that are so heavily reliant, but these will always find ways. If it is valuable enough, they'll ship it via freight, they'll ship it via airfare, they ship it to another port, they do all that. And these huge container ships will reroute because it costs them so much. They can't just idle and wait for weeks on weeks on weeks till this is resolved. But I think I think we'll have a resolution probably in a week or so. That's my estimation. And yeah, we'll weather this out. So let me know what you guys think about all of this. And it's a gorgeous day in Las Vegas. It is a gorgeous day. And a little key lesson that I'm learning from this is that you always need to have alternatives. You can't just rely on one source. So if you're a company, take this away. If you're in charge of a company, or if you're a supply chain manager watching this, always have backup upon backup. If you can't get your product via shipment, get it via airplane, get it to a different port. So you can always get your parts and you can always serve your customers and get your products. This was it for this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, and I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.